"You're no longer part of this family," my father's email declared, cold as a winter night. "Stay away for good." I didn't beg or plead. I wired. The final payment to sever our joint ventures, emailed the estate lawyer to pull my stake, and filed to untangle our finances. By dawn, my sister's frantic text lit up my phone. "What have you done?" I smirked, unfazed. Then my mother's attorney fired off a message, "Meet me today, urgent." Without a second thought, I was sprawled on my couch in Palo Alto, the kind of bone-tired you feel when you've been running on fumes for weeks, when my phone lit up like a flare in the dark. It was 2:03 a.m., and the notification wasn't some Slack ping from my team at Nexus AI or a Venmo request from my kid's school fundraiser. It was an email from my dad. Richard Caldwell, subject line, blank. Which should have been my first clue this wasn't a late-night phishing invite. I opened it, expecting maybe a lecture about missing Mom's charity gala last month. Instead, 6 words stared back at me, cold as a January gust. "You're dead to us. Never come back." I read it twice, then a third time, waiting for the punchline that never came. My dad, the guy who'd spent my childhood preaching family first over Sunday roasts, had just cut me out like I was a bad stock pick. No explanation, no "we need to talk," just a guillotine drop. I sat there, the glow of my phone burning my eyes, and felt something I hadn't expected. Not anger, not even hurt, but a kind of eerie calm. Like a circuit in my soul had shorted out. It was the moment I realized the Calwells, my blood, my so-called tribe, had been playing me for a fool my whole damn life. Let me back up. I'm Ethan Caldwell, 38, founder of Nexus AI, a Silicon Valley startup that was supposed to revolutionize predictive analytics, but was currently bleeding cash faster than a Vegas slot machine. We'd botched a product launch 6 months ago, think new Coke-level disaster, and our investors were circling like vultures, ready to pull their $20 million 0 cents if I didn't turn things around by Q3. I was drowning in payroll, server costs, and a supply chain snafu that had us paying double for chips we couldn't even use. So when my sister Lauren called 2 days ago, begging me to cover her $50,000 0 cents credit card debt, I said no, not hell no, not are you kidding me, just a quiet, "I can't right now, Lauren, things are tight." Lauren, 29, lives in LA, where she's carved out a niche as an Instagram influencer peddling skincare serums and yoga retreats to her 200,000 followers. Her feed's a glossy parade of avocado toast brunches and Malibu sunsets. But what her fans don't see is the maxed-out Amex, the overdue rent on her Santa Monica loft, or the fact that I've been quietly bankrolling her lifestyle for years. See, Lauren's not just my sister. She's the family's golden child, the one who could do no wrong, even when her business was little more than a pyramid scheme with better lighting. I didn't mind helping, until I couldn't. And that, apparently, was my cardinal sin. The email wasn't the end of it. By 7 a.m., a courier showed up at my doorstep, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. He handed me a notarized letter, the kind you'd expect from a divorce attorney, not your own father. It reiterated the email's message, but added a kicker. I was to vacate my share of our family's Napa Valley vineyard, a 50-acre sprawl of Cabernet vines that was less about wine and more about Dad's ego. The letter demanded I sign over my stake by noon or face legal consequences. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because the audacity was almost impressive. They thought they could bully me out of a property I'd personally mortgaged when Dad's credit tanked after his IRS audit a decade ago. Good luck with that. I didn't cry. I didn't call my wife Sarah, who was upstairs getting our kids, Emma and Noah, ready for school. I just poured myself a black coffee, sat at my kitchen island, and started typing. First, I emailed my attorney, instructing him to freeze my end of a $2 million 0 cents escrow tied to a family real estate project in San Diego. A glitzy condo development Dad swore would put the Caldwells on the map. Then I drafted my resignation as co-trustee of the Caldwell Family Trust, a $10 million 0 cents nest egg that funded everything from Mom's charity to Lauren's Manhattan pied-à-terre. I hit send, CC'd the bank, and felt a weight lift, like I'd just cut the anchor chain on a sinking ship. By 8:15, my phone buzzed with a text from Lauren. "What the hell, Ethan? My accounts are frozen. Fix this now." I stared at it, picturing her in her overpriced loft, probably mid-selfie, oblivious to the fact that her rent, her car lease, even her freaking Netflix subscription ran through my personal credit line. I didn't reply, let her figure it out. She'd always been quick to take, but slow to ask how I was holding up, and I was done playing ATM. That's when things got messy. Around 10 a.m., I got a Slack alert from my PR guy, Mike, with a link to a TechCrunch article that made my stomach lurch. Some disgruntled ex-employee, probably that coder I fired for missing deadlines, had leaked my personal financial records to a dark web forum. The docs laid bare every dime I'd funneled into family ventures. $500,000, 0 cents to Dad's construction firm Caldwell Builds, $200,000, 0 cents to Lauren's brand, $300,000, 0 cents to Mom's charity Hope for Heroes. The headline screamed, "Silicon Valley CEO bankrolls family empire while startup sinks." Twitter was already ablaze with Ethan Caldwell trending. Half the posts called me a martyr for carrying dead weight. The other half branded me a tax-dodging elitist. Great. Just what I needed when my board was already breathing down my neck. I was still processing the leak when my mom's attorney, a slick shark named Vincent Russo, called, demanding an emergency meeting at his downtown San Francisco office. "Ethan, this is financial sabotage," he barked, like I was the one who'd started this war. I agreed to meet, mostly because I wanted to see how far they'd push this charade. When I walked into Russo's office, he was flanked by Mom, Diane, her face a mask of practiced concern, and a stack of legal docs thicker than a phone book. "We can fix this, Ethan," she said, her voice dripping with the same tone she used to guilt me into funding her galas. "But you need to stop this madness." I leaned back in my chair, crossed my arms, and let them have it. "Madness? You mean like disowning me because I wouldn't bail Lauren out of her shopping addiction? Or maybe you're talking about Dad's construction firm, which only exists because I co-signed his loans after the IRS nearly seized his assets. Or Mom, how about your charity, which hasn't passed an audit without my accountants fudging the numbers?" Their faces froze, like I'd just flipped the table at Thanksgiving. Russo tried to interrupt, but I kept going. "You don't get to play victim when I've been the one keeping this family afloat. I'm done." That's when the first real blow landed. As I drove back to Palo Alto, my phone rang. My office manager panicked. A dozen guys from Dad's construction crew had shown up at Nexus AI's headquarters, hammers in hand, pissed off because their paychecks bounced. They'd trashed the lobby, spray painting "Pay Up Caldwell" on the glass doors, and one of them, some burly dude with a rap sheet, had gotten in my CFO's face, promising to find me if the money didn't come through. Cops were on the scene, but the damage was done. My employees were spooked, and the local news was already running bios on the chaos. I told my team to work from home and called my lawyer to file an injunction, blocking Dad's firm from accessing our vendor accounts. If they wanted a fight, I'd give them one. By noon, I was back home scrolling through the trust documents on my laptop when I stumbled on something that made my blood run cold. A hidden clause, buried in legalese, suggesting Dad had siphoned funds from the trust to an offshore account in the Caymans back in 2012. The evidence was incomplete, just a reference to discretionary transfers, but it was enough to make me wonder what else he'd been hiding. I saved the file to an encrypted drive and kept digging, my mind racing with questions. Had Dad been cooking the books all along? Was this why he was so quick to cut me out? The day got worse. At 3 p.m., my car alarm went off. I ran outside to find my Tesla Model S trashed, windows smashed, tires slashed, and "Family Traitor" scrawled in red spray paint across the hood. The security cam caught a blurry figure in a hoodie, but the cops, when they finally showed up, had a hunch it was Lauren's doing. "She's been posting some pretty unhinged stuff online," the officer said, showing me her latest Instagram live. There she was, tears streaming, telling her followers I'd abandoned her, left her homeless, and destroyed our family. The comments were a war zone, Team Lauren fans calling me a monster, while others rallied behind Ethan Caldwell, praising me for cutting the cord. I didn't know whether to to laugh or scream. Sarah found me in the garage, staring at the wreckage of my car. She's the steady one, the one who keeps our family, our real family, grounded. "Ethan, are you sure about this?" she asked, her voice soft but firm. "The kids are asking why Grandpa hasn't called. Maybe you could talk to them, find a middle ground." I shook my head, the email's words echoing in my mind. "They didn't want middle ground, Sarah. They wanted a doormat. I'm not that guy anymore." She nodded, but I could see the worry in her eyes. Emma and Noah, 8 and 6, didn't deserve to be caught in this crossfire. But neither did I. That evening, I made a move that lit the internet on fire. I tweeted from my personal account, "My family disowned me for saying no to their endless handouts. Today, I cut them off. Freedom greater than obligation. Nexus AI." The post went viral, racking up 50,000 retweets by midnight. Half of Silicon Valley cheered me on, calling me a poster child for bootstrapping your way out of toxic ties. And the other half, mostly the family values crowd, dragged me as a heartless tech bro who'd sell his own kids for a Series B round. The debate spilled onto Reddit, TikTok, even CNN's talking heads, who debated whether I was a hero or a villain. I didn't care. I just wanted the world to know I wasn't going down quietly. But the family wasn't done. At 9 p.m., a tabloid called the Bay Insider dropped a hit piece sourced to an anonymous family member, Red Lauren, claiming I dodged taxes by funneling Nexus AI profits through shell companies. It was a lie, but a clever one, designed to tank my credibility with investors. My board called an emergency meeting, and I spent 2 hours on Zoom convincing them the allegations were bunk. Twitter, meanwhile, split down the middle. Tax cheat Caldwell trended alongside Stand with Ethan. I was winning the war of optics, but barely. The next morning, a Wells Fargo exec called with bad news. Caldwell Builds had defaulted on a $500,000 0-cents loan I'd co-signed, and the bank was coming for my personal assets if it wasn't repaid. My credit score, already shaky from Nexus AI's losses, was about to take a nosedive. I told them to go after Dad's firm, not me, but the damage was done. My financial house was burning, and the family I'd propped up for years was holding the match. I had grown a fondness for her. It was a heavy stone to carry her family with. She had always been financially strong, and her pride, international travel. My family would feel worse if I had to come home to a house that was holding the match. Then came the voicemail. I found it while checking my spam folder, a garbled message from a number I didn't recognize. It was my grandfather, Pops, who'd died 3 years ago, his voice crackling like an old record. "Ethan, if you're hearing this, you've found the truth. Check the offshore account, it's all there." The message cut off, leaving me staring at my phone, heart pounding. Pops had always been the one who saw through Dad's bluster, the one who'd taught me to code when I was 12. Had he left me a breadcrumb trail to something bigger? I didn't know, but I was damn sure gonna find out. By the end of the week, I'd foreclosed on the Napa Vineyard, a move that hit Dad where it hurt most, his pride. The place was a money pit, but it was his crown jewel, the thing he bragged about at country club dinners. I didn't stop there. I pulled the plug on Mom's charity, Hope for Heroes, which lost its 501c status when I stopped paying for its audits. The IRS was already sniffing around, and Mom's board was in panic mode. Lauren, meanwhile, kept up her social media crusade, posting daily sob stories that painted me as the Grinch who stole her Christmas. But I wasn't backing down. Not now, not ever. This wasn't just about money. It was about respect, about being seen as more than a walking checkbook. The Caldwells thought they could erase me, but they forgot one thing. I was the one holding the pen, and I was rewriting the story, one brutal chapter at a time. The Napa Valley air hit me like a slap, all crisp earth and grapevine musk as I pulled up to the vineyard I'd just foreclosed on. It was 6 a.m., the kind of early where the world feels like it's holding its breath, and I was here to crack open a secret that had been gnawing at me since Pop's voicemail. The locked safe, mentioned in his will, was supposedly buried somewhere in the estate's old cellar, a rusted vault that might hold the key to why my family turned on me so fast. I wasn't just chasing answers, I was chasing the truth about who the Caldwells really were. But as my boots crunched the gravel, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You're digging in the wrong place, Ethan. Stop before it's too late." My pulse spiked. Someone was watching. I'd barely slept since Dad's email a week ago, the one that burned, "You're dead to us," into my brain like a brand. The fallout had been a wildfire. My sister Lauren's Instagram meltdowns, Mom's charity imploding, Dad's construction firm teetering on bankruptcy, all because I'd pulled the plug on their financial lifelines. Nexus AI, my startup, was hanging by a thread, with investors spooked by a leaked financial scandal and a tabloid hit piece claiming I'd dodged taxes. Twitter was a battlefield, split between Team Ethan cheering my independence and Caldwell clan crying family betrayal. But I wasn't backing down. Not when I'd found that trust clause hinting at Dad's embezzlement. Not when Pops's cryptic message about an offshore account echoed in my head. This vineyard, my family's pride, was my next move, and it was about to get messy. I met with a private investigator named Carla Ruiz the day before, a chain-smoking ex-cop with a knack for digging up dirt. Over greasy diner coffee in Oakland, she slid me a manila folder thick with red flags. "Your dad's IRS violations from 2015? You bailed him out, Ethan," she said, her voice gravelly. "Paid off $1,200,000, 0 cents in back taxes to keep him out of prison. But here's the kicker. He never stopped playing fast and loose." She showed me bank records, shady transfers to a shell company called Blue Horizon, linked to Dad's construction firm, Caldwell Builds. I'd cleaned up his mess a decade ago, thinking it was a one-time screw-up. Now, I wasn't so sure. Carla leaned in, her eyes narrowing. "If that safe holds what I think it does, you're not just fighting your family, you're poking a bigger beast." Her words were still rattling in my skull as I descended into the vineyard's cellar, a damp maze of cobwebs and oak barrels. The safe was real, all right. A hulking steel box bolted to the concrete, its dial glinting under my flashlight. Pop's will had been specific. The truth lies beneath the vines for the one who dares to look. I didn't have the combination, but I'd brought a locksmith, a wiry guy named Pete who swore he could crack anything. As he fiddled with the dial, my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. "Leave the safe alone or Nexus burns." I froze, glancing around the shadowed cellar. Was this Dad? Lauren? Someone else? Pete looked up, sensing my tension. "You good, man?" I nodded, but I wasn't. The air felt heavier, like the walls were closing in. That's when the first disaster struck. My CTO, Priya, called in a panic. "Ethan, someone's trying to hack our servers. They got into the dev branch. Our proprietary code's at risk." My heart sank. Nexus AI's predictive algorithms were our golden ticket, the only thing keeping investors from jumping ship. A leak to competitors like Neural Core could tank us for good. Priya traced the attack to a darknet IP, but I knew who was behind it. Dad had the cash and the motive to hire a hacker, especially after I'd cut off his $500,000 0 cents credit line. I told Priya to lock down everything and called my cybersecurity guy, who confirmed the breach was inches from exposing our core tech. We stopped it, but the damage was done. My board was freaking out, and I was staring at a $200,000 0 cents bill to shore up our defenses. I left Pete to work on the safe and sped back to Palo Alto, my mind a tangle of rage and paranoia. Who'd sent those texts? What was in that safe that scared them so much? By the time I got home, Sarah was waiting, her face tight with worry. "Your mom was here," she said, pointing to a $200 0 cents bottle of Napa Valley Cabernet on the counter, a post-it note stuck to it. "We can fix this. Come home, Mom," I snorted, grabbing the bottle and dumping it in the trash. "She thinks wine's gonna erase your dead to us? Classic Diane." Sarah frowned. "Ethan, she looked desperate. Maybe she's trying." I shook my head, changing our home's security codes on my phone. Trying's not enough when they've been using me for years. The next blow came at noon. Lauren's lawyer, some LA hotshot named Greg Feldman, emailed a cease and desist, claiming my viral tweet about cutting off the family was defamatory. He demanded $1 million, 0 cents in damages, and a public apology, or they'd sue. My startup was already hemorrhaging cash. A lawsuit would be the death knell. I forwarded the email to my attorney, Lena, who laughed. "They've got no case, Ethan, but they're banking on you folding." I wasn't folding, but the pressure was suffocating. Lauren's latest X-post didn't help. Learning to live simpler. Some people abandon family when times get tough. Starting over. The comments were brutal. Half her followers called me a deadbeat, while Team Ethan fired back, accusing her of entitlement. The internet was eating it up, and I was caught in the crossfire. I needed leverage, so I made a move that'd haunt me. I sold the Napa vineyard to Golden Harvest, a rival winery that'd been sniffing around for years. The deal was $3 million, 0 cents, cash, and I made sure it hit the news. Dad cherished that vineyard like a second child. Seeing it in enemy hands would gut him. The San Francisco Chronicle ran the headline, "Tech CEO sells family legacy in bitter feud." Social media exploded. Team Ethan praised my savage power play, while Coldwell clan wailed about disloyalty, some even doxing my office address. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt hollow, like I'd traded a piece of my soul to win a war I hadn't started. That night, my cousin Jake showed up unannounced, nursing a beer on my porch like we were still kids sneaking drinks at family barbecues. "Ethan, they're losing it," he said, his voice low. "Uncle Richard's rallying the cousins to sue you for trust mismanagement. Says you acted in bad faith." I laughed, bitter. Bad faith? He disowned me for saying no to Lauren's shopping spree. Jake sighed, running a hand through his hair. "They underestimated you, man. Always did. But they're broken without you. Maybe talk to them?" I stared at him, the guy who'd always stayed neutral, and felt a pang of guilt. But then I remembered Dad's email, and the guilt burned away. "They made their choice, Jake. I'm just living with it." The next morning, danger came knocking, literally. I was at a tech conference in San Jose, pitching Nexus AI to a room of venture capitalists when Dad stormed in, red-faced and reeking of whiskey. "You think you can humiliate me?" he roared, shoving me hard enough to knock me into a table. The crowd gasped, phones flashing as they recorded. Security dragged him out, but not before he spat, "You're no son of mine." The video hit X within minutes, trending with Caldwell Clash. I filed a restraining order that afternoon, my hands shaking as I signed the papers. Team Ethan called it justice. Caldwell clan called me a coward hiding behind lawyers. I just wanted to breathe without looking over my shoulder. The story required a dramatic change from the episode's other characters. Amid the chaos, a new clue surfaced. An anonymous email landed in my inbox, sender masked. "Hope for heroes isn't what it seems. Check the 2022 donations. Political campaigns, jail time if you push." My stomach churned. Mom's charity, her pride and joy, funneling money to politicians? If true, it was a federal crime. I forwarded it to Carla, who texted back, "This is big, Ethan, lay low." But laying low wasn't an option. Mom called an hour later, sobbing. "You've ruined us," she choked out, her voice raw. "The board quit. The IRS is auditing us. How could you?" I waited for an apology, a hint she knew she'd crossed me first. Nothing, just tears and blame. I hung up, my chest tight with a mix of pity and fury. The pressure kept piling on. Richard tried accessing a shared Dropbox I'd forgotten about, triggering a security alert. Inside were contracts from Caldwell Builds showing he'd undervalued assets to dodge taxes. Proof I could hand to the IRS. I hesitated, knowing it'd destroy him. But he'd destroyed me first, hadn't he? I saved the files to my encrypted drive, unsure if I'd use them but unwilling to let them go.